Hi there, and welcome to your weekly werewolf report in the year of the werewolf. That's going to get old saying really fast. But you know what? I am light. I am at peace. I'm almost, dare I say, happy because it was another good week, you guys. We're on a run. We're on a streak that I know is going to end very badly. But for now, I'm holding on to the happiness. I'm holding on to the peace. 2 good movies and a good book that I can recommend to you. At the end of this year, there will be like a final post where I list everything that I liked altogether. But I'm really happy that I am adding to the list of good werewolf books and movies that I can talk about that I can recommend to people, because we hit a bad spot there where it was like, this is hopeless. I'm never going to find something I like ever again. But we got some good ones. So thank you to my friend John for recommending the book Red Moon by Benjamin Percy. This book is really good. It's long, which that's a me thing. The long books tend to bother me sometimes because I know I've said before, I try to keep the writer side of me away while I'm reading, but there is a part of me that's like, this could have been scaled down a little bit. But I didn't mind it in this. I didn't mind the length of this book. It's also not a horror book. This is a supernatural thriller. That's never a problem with me. I like those too. I read a lot of those, actually. This book is extremely, extremely, extremely good. It's heavy on the werewolf stuff. They're called lichens in this. And it's heavy on... It's a critique on society and politics. Very, very modern, very now. This stuff still would strike a tone. It wasn't put out that long ago, actually. You put below summer, editing summer, when it came out, because I didn't write it down because I'm dumb. But no, seriously, this book, I actually got it on Audible. I listened to an audiobook version of it, and Benjamin Percy read it. And he did a fantastic job. It reminded me of Toni Morrison, who did the audiobook version of Beloved. And it's beautiful the way she read it. And it's beautiful the way Benjamin Percy read this. Can't recommend it enough. Absolutely. It's not horror. I would prefer my werewolf books to be horror, especially since I'm devoting a whole year to it. But honestly, this was a nice little detour. Very brutal book, very, very hard to read in some places just because of the things that are still current, if you get what I'm meaning. I don't want to spoil anything. It's just like, even the ending, it's like, oh, jeez, you just went there. The very, very, very good book. Let's see if I can try to summarize it. So we live in a world where we have humans and we have people who are afflicted with the disease, who we refer to as lichens. And the lichens are treated as second-class citizens. They're very repressed, oppressed. There's legislation always, being put forth to keep them second-class citizens, and naturally they revolt, and it gets ugly. It gets very ugly right here on U.S. soil, and there are several points of view put forth in this book. Some of them human, some of them lichen, some of them sympathetic to the lichen plight, some of them not. Some of the lichens that we have put their point of view, some of them don't agree with the extremists, and some of them are the extremists. And that's, I think, why I didn't mind it being so long, because of the varied points of view. And it moves constantly. There's no lull in this storytelling. I just found it fabulous. I would definitely recommend this. I would definitely listen to this audiobook again. Now about the movies. This first movie I'm going to talk about, Tubi has been trying to push this one on me for a while. I'd never seen it, I'd never really heard of it, but the still from the movie that Tubi kept putting up was of a monster that doesn't look like a werewolf, like at all. So I assumed, because of the name, it could have meant anything. It's obviously a monster, but it didn't look like a werewolf. but it is a werewolf movie, happily, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. This movie, 1995's Project Metalbeast. Whee! I had, I did not know what to expect with this, and this is a movie where it's not a classic werewolf movie, although it does have werewolves. We meet our first werewolf just a couple minutes into the movie. Now, this is a movie that, again, it's not classic in our what we're looking for in werewolf movies. Like, we don't get the big monster reveal, we don't get the big monster transformation, because we meet our first werewolf, again, very early on. They keep doing this thing. They did it twice, and it scared me both times. I'm very tightly wound. It's no big thing at all to startle me. Very easy to get me to do that. So the movie starts with these two men in a boat, and they're crossing a lake or a river, some sort of small-ish body of water, and it says they're in Budapest, or on the outskirts of Budapest, and they happen upon this. It looks like a castle on a hill, and they go up there, and they're greeted by rotting body parts, pretty much right inside the threshold of this place. And these men obviously look like they're some sort of armed forces or something. They're armed, they are wearing body armor, and they're sweeping through this place. It's two men, and they go into this room, and they're looking around, and it's all very quiet, and they look up, and perched in the rafters of this big room is a werewolf. And it happens so suddenly, and of course, as soon as the camera centers on the werewolf, it goes, "Rawr!" And it scared me. It startled me. And that's our first thing. And what we find out is these men work for the US government, and they've been looking for years and years and years for a werewolf so that they can get its blood, so that they can start the research into making super soldiers. Very, this kind of thing. It's why I don't like the Nazi werewolf, because that's kind of the same thing. But this movie goes off the rails. This isn't like that at all. Because, no, that's not what happens. It gets cut short. And one of these men ends up injecting himself with the werewolf blood and turns into a werewolf in the middle of an office building. Bureaucracy is going on, and he turns into a werewolf and starts attacking people. That's the second jump scare. He's crouched behind a desk watching a guy who's looking for him, and it centers on him, and it scares me. But things go very wrong because Barry Bostwick is in this. Brad from Rocky Horror Picture Show, but he's the bad guy. This isn't the thing where the monster is the bad guy. The bad guy is the schemer, the planner, the manipulator, and he's wonderful as a bad guy in this. He does it very well. He's very smarmy. He's very driven, very goal-oriented, which sometimes is a good thing and sometimes is not. In this case, it is not. And he stops the werewolf here by shooting silver bullets into his chest and puts him in cryosleep for 20 years. And what ends up happening is he finds this lab that's working on synthesizing skin that has metal in it. And it gets weird from there. He offers them this frozen werewolf, saying it's just a cadaver. He looks like a man at this point. He is reverted back to human form. And then we get Project Metalbeast. And the thing that it turns into no longer really looks like a werewolf. It gets weird. It's just a weird movie. It's a weird premise. But it's a monster movie. It has a great ending. I like the way it ended. I was really into this movie. I had a great time. So, yes, Project Werewolf, if you're like me and look at everything on Tubi. Also, before I move on, if you watch these older movies on Tubi, please use closed captioning, because the quality on these is sometimes very, very rough, and you cannot understand what they're saying. They've obviously used old VHS tapes, and the sound quality is just garbage. It sounds like they're talking through pillows at you, and this is one of those you need to have your closed captioning on so you know what they're saying. But, if you're like me and you're on Tubi a lot, maybe this movie got recommended to you, and the still that they use, it doesn't look like a werewolf. It looks like some other kind of monster. But it's a werewolf. It's a good movie. Project Metalbeast. Now, the second movie, it came up as, recommended after I finished watching Project Metalbeast. And the title is Bad Blood, 2016 movie. There. And you can see from that poster, we're dealing with something else here. Now, I earlier had talked about Candace Nola's awesome book, Bishop, which is a were book, but not a werewolf book. That's a werebear. And this movie really surprised me because once I got what the monster is, and it just to spoil it a little bit, because they're not playing around. They reveal it pretty soon. It is a were amphibian. I would have said were frog, but it's not really a frog, but kind of a frog. But it's an amphibian. It's kind of like a really pissed off creature from the Black Lagoon. And the thing that's amazing about this is it's a classic were movie. It definitely pulls from werewolf movies. There's a scene in this that is shot for shot pulled from American Werewolf in London, but it's this were frog person. And I like that. I really like those tips of the hat to your predecessors. It's a classic were movie. We get the long transformation scene. We get the big reveal. There are amazing deaths in this. Lots of gore. We get the lore. Lots of like crazy scientist stuff. It's everything you want in a monster movie like this. They just went weird. And I thought I was going to hate this, but my husband, he does D&D on the nights when I have werewolf night. He wants to be far away when I do this. But he was texting me, and I was getting annoyed that he kept texting me. And I realized it was because I was into this movie. Like, I was into it. I was invested in these characters. I was invested in where the story was going. I was completely sucked in. I have to recommend this one because I actually really liked this movie. Like, really liked this movie. Classic monster movie. They relied on old tropes without making them feel old. They made them fresh. And this monster has a weird amphibian boobs. If that doesn't make you curious, I don't know what will. But yeah, Bad Blood. If you look it up on IMDb, it's like Bad Blood : the movie. But just look up Bad Blood 2016. And it's, again, on Tubi. But since it's more recent, the sound quality is fine on this one. But I like the hell out of this movie. There's some non-cursed characters in this who are awful. Like, awful. But you get to watch them get their comeuppance, which we love in monster movies. That's one of the great things about monster movies is watching supernatural take over for nature and bring karma to the world. And we get that here. So yeah, that'll be it this week. I will say the book that I will be reading next week, I don't necessarily have high hopes for, but there was a reason why I had to have it. And whether I like it or not, I will still talk about it next week. Just cause. But we'll see how the movies go. We had a great week this week. 2 movies and a good book. Yes! So thank you. Thank you for always being here and watching. Thank you for commenting. Had a really freaking busy week this week. So I saw one of you who has been a longtime follower on this channel has come back. Hi! Great to see you again. Great to see you commenting. I have read them. Sorry I don't reply. It's been crazy here. But I hope the world is treating you well. I hope everything is going great with you. And again, thank you for being here. I will be back with another weekly werewolf report next week, hopefully with good news, but we shall see. Bye!